Hey, hi guys. So today in this video, we are going to have one mock interview session for Salesforce workflow topic. So why do we need this? Basically, as you know, most of us who are planning to switch their career into Salesforce or who are undergraduates and want to make their career into Salesforce technology, they usually want to have some kind of mocks, some mock interviews from which they can learn what different questions can come for each topic. So what I thought is to prepare a video, and in each video, we can just have some to and fro, some conversation about that particular topic. I have my friend Tushar Bhatt joining me, and he will be the interviewer, and I'll be the candidate. Let's go ahead. Welcome, Tushar.
Krishna. So, as Krishna already mentioned today, we'll be going through some mock related questions on workflows. So, first, can you just give a brief idea about basically what is workflow in Salesforce and why we use it?
Thanks for your question. So,
Hmm.
workflow is a kind of automation tool within Salesforce. So, in Salesforce, we have different roles, right? Some are the admins, some are developers. So, mostly workflow is used by admins, and workflow is more like a if and then statement. For example, if you have certain condition and based on that, you want to perform some action. So, for this purpose, we use workflow. So, it's a kind of automation tool within Salesforce.
Okay. Okay. And can you just tell me about what all features does workflow support and where all can we use it?
Yes, sure. So, as I explained that it is kind of a if and then statement. So workflow supports few of the actions like let's say if
Hmm.
you have an object called account and
Hmm.
some things are happening on the account, and based on that you want to update some field on the same object. So whenever
Hmm.
you want to have an action, like you want to update a field of the same object, then you can utilize workflow. Similarly, you can also utilize workflow in case of email alerts. If you want to send some
Hmm.
emails based on some conditions, let's say if you have some claims and or some cases and that are going to get closed, and in that case you want to send that email. So for that purpose also we can use workflow. Then we can also create the tasks using workflow, and we can even send the outbound message. So in general, there are four features of this workflow.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. And as you just mentioned just now, we can have that outbound messaging functionality as well with workflows. Can you explain a bit about that? What all features does it support as far as outbound messages are concerned?
Outbound message is something when from Salesforce you want to communicate something, you want to send some message to an external system. In that
Hmm.
case, we can use the workflow outbound messages. Now, how the life cycle goes for the workflow is you need to create that outbound message first within Salesforce. Now, this particular message supports SOAP API. So in the
Hmm.
SOAP format, we structure our particular message that we want to pass on. In general, we can have, if the workflow is written on account, and then we can include some of the fields that are present on account. And based on those fields, we can prepare our message. And that message is following the SOAP protocol. And that particular message we are going to send in the external system. Now, what happens is uh, Salesforce expects the acknowledgement message in return. So, for example, Salesforce is sending um, some message to any external system. Then Salesforce expects some acknowledgement back in a specific format. So that's why workflow outbound messages are generally called as, or basically they are driven by the contract first agreement, where Salesforce specifies the contract that you need to send me the acknowledgement that, hey, I have received the message. So for
Hmm.
that purpose, the external system needs to make some change in their code. Whenever the message is coming from Salesforce, they need to send
Hmm.
back some acknowledgement message, right? So that's why
Yes.
external system has to sign that particular contract. Sometimes what happens if the external system is too old, or they are just refusing that, okay, we just cannot send anything. In that case, we cannot
Hmm.
go ahead with the workflow, because workflow needs the acknowledgement. And the special feature with the workflow outbound messages is, let's say if I'm sending the message to the external system, but at that point external system is down for some reason, then workflow
Hmm.
tries that particular message again. So it tries in an exponential time range, and till 24 hours. So till 24 hours,
Hmm. Yes.
keeps on trying and trying. And even after 24 hours, if there is no acknowledgement, in that case, it fails. So this is another advantage, that in 24 hours, you have that particular message in the queue. Um, so yeah, this is the overall life cycle of the outbound message.
Yeah, correct. Okay, going ahead in this direction, can you just explain the format of outbound messages?
Yes, yes. So as I mentioned, it usually follows the SOAP API, and the format of the message is XML. So within the XML, based on the
Hmm.
fields you are adding, the particular outbound message gets its structure, and that particular message we are just sending it to the external system.
Okay. Any limitations that you have found across working in workflow, or yeah, working with workflows?
Uh, yeah. So comparing to any advanced integration methodologies or the event-driven architecture, right? So usually
Hmm.
that particular message stays in workflow for just 24 hours. But
Hmm.
if you compare it with the event bus, usually the message stays for 72 hours when we think about the platform events or change data capture event, right? And apart from
Okay.
that, the message is the workflow usually accepts the acknowledgement email, right? Acknowledgement message.
Yeah.
But sometimes if the external system is not capable of, doing some customization, in that case, we cannot just utilize Salesforce, right?
Hmm.
So I think these are the general limitations.
Hmm. And I think you just mentioned in the start, like when we were doing field updates on a single object, then so that also we can count as a limitation because it doesn't support related objects updations.
Correct, correct. So in general limitation, like we cannot update anything on the related objects, right? All these
Yes.
DL operations happen on the same object. Correct. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. And last question I'll ask, like, if there are any new features that you are aware, if that Salesforce might be coming up.
Yes, yes. So basically, the workflow rule on user object was not supported till date, and there is a
Hmm.
beta feature where you can also utilize user object. So let's say if there is a new user onboarded, and you want to send some email alert to that particular user, considering some of the fields like username or user phone number, email. So all these things are possible now. So you can also have
Hmm.
your workflow on user object now. So this is one of the feature that I think it is in beta, and it will be stable soon.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there are the immediate and time based actions as well. Immediate actions are those actions. So sometimes you want to execute them ASAP, right? As soon as the condition meets, you just want to execute that action. So all the
Hmm.
actions that we discussed, right, the four actions, these can be
Hmm.
categorized in two ways. One is the immediate action, and the second one is the time-based action. So
Hmm.
the usual thing is, what happens in the time-based action is, sometimes the condition, the criteria met, and we need to do that particular thing with the help of any action. But
Hmm.
after 2 days, let's say, and that is configured in time-based action. So what
Hmm.
happens, just before sending that particular message, right? Workflow again evaluates that criteria. So let's say if the criteria says, if the case is closed, then send an email after 2 days. But um, after 2 days, just before sending that particular email, right? Workflow again
Hmm.
evaluates that this criteria is true or not. And if they found that, okay, no, case status is again changed and it is not closed at this point, then that particular message is thrown out of the queue.
Okay. So it means you are saying like if the time is scheduled for 5 p.m. So again, Salesforce will again check the workflow conditions before 5 p.m. before triggering the workflow.
Yeah, correct, correct.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's it, Krishna. I think we have covered quite a few questions from workflows, and
Okay,
I think
great.
we are good.
Okay, okay. So, shall we go ahead to the feedback now? Can you tell me, like, overall, what you felt about this particular session?
Yeah, so like beginning from the beginning only, it was fine. Like you answered all the questions, and apart from that, I just wanted to point out one thing. Like uh, people watching also can learn from this one. Like when Krishna was explaining the answers, so what one thing he was doing, he was giving some brief, he was giving some examples as with along with it, and some extra information as well. So that kind of gives a nice impression to the person taking the interview. So that kind of I can add it as a plus point. Yeah, so just I wanted to add 2 points here. Like one point which Krishna has correctly pointed out, some new features of workflows that are in place currently in progress by Salesforce, because many people have that misconception that workflow is gonna end and they are not doing any uh, updates to workflows. So that is not the case. So this is a good thing pointed out by Krishna, that they have some new releases that are in beta stages. So workflow is also getting some progress, some updates in the future. And second point, I just wanted to mention, like you guys can refer to the documents and links which will be pinning in the description of this video. So you should definitely not miss those. And before appearing for your future interviews, you should definitely have a go through them.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Tushar. Uh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks, Krishna.
Tushar, for your time. Then we'll meet again in the next session.